All right, and welcome back to another episode of Tea Time with Mother and Crone. We got a lot of good stuff going on. Unfortunately, Melinda is out again with her back, so I have a guest host, and I'm going to keep a secret on who it is. If you're wondering about the chapeau, yes, we're going to try and do some fun things. Witches don't always have to wear just black hats. I mean, a little color doesn't hurt every once in a while. So my guest host, my very special guest host, is an old friend of mine and an absolutely wonderful person. I'm so excited to have him on the show, and I'm welcoming you, Reverend Jason Highcorrell. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Hello, it's good to be here.
We go back far too many years to mention, but we've always had fun together. This is really great. I get to bounce off some stuff off somebody new and hopefully not embarrassing too much. Of course, I won't try. So, what we're going to talk about a little bit is what's in our mugs. Jason, can you tell us what you have in your mug?
I have cinnamon.
Mm, that's very close to pumpkin spice.
Yes.
My favorite time
Simply
of year.
seasoned.
All right, Jason, what the cinnamon you have, you're going to give us the good medical lowdown on what does cinnamon do. Now, you might have heard this in other shows, but we're going to try and cover some of the different stuff. So, Jason, if you can give us a holler of what cinnamon does.
It's an antioxidant. It can help lower your blood pressure and control your cholesterol, and it's good for menstrual symptoms as well.
It's also good for protection.
And protection. Yes.
I love the fact
Just
that that pumpkin spice is made with all the herbs that we use for protection. And it just tickles me to no end. When you're sitting at work and you're sucking back on a pumpkin spice, and someone goes, "Ew, pumpkin spice." Oh, it's working. That is so evil. I know. I'm sorry. No, I'm not. Cinnamon has been around forever. It's just one of those spices that have been around for a very, very long time. And it's been used in almost every religion uses it for holy purposes, believe it or not. The ancient Hebrews actually used cinnamon. I mean, who would guess? The leaves of the cinnamon tree were woven into wreaths, which were used to decorate Roman temples. So we've always seen the laurel leaves and the bay leaves, but you've never seen the cinnamon leaves. Because Hollywood, I guess bay leaves and laurel leaves stand up better under the lights. I have no idea. The Egyptians obviously used the oil during the mummification process. So if you just think about cinnamon and how it smells, and it's a very strong smell, it really would be used to get rid of some of the body odors that when something's decaying, it had to help. Um, and those are practical uses for it. Cinnamon is used for a lot of different things. It's used in gazillion products, especially this time of year. You see it. They do the pine cones and the cinnamon. They do cinnamon is in everything this time of year. So if you're allergic to cinnamon, you're just out of luck for eating anything this time of year. It for magical uses.
or just going through the potpourri section of any cinnamon is just so prolific. But most people,
But
it's okay. Yeah, I mean,
I don't think there's anything that smells better than cinnamon, like when you're cooking with it.
I like the smell of the apples and cinnamon, and then with the yeah,
You
that
know, when,
smell. It just smells well. Besides, it smells like apple pie, but I mean, it just smells so homey. Just
it makes you happy.
yes,
As
comfort.
it does. If you're in your home now, up north, y'all are cold because you're all the way up north. I'm way down in the heat. I do know that when I lived up north, if the house being closed up gets a house odor, it's not stinky. It's because it's closed up.
Yeah.
I used to like to boil water, cinnamon, and cloves on my stove. I just turn it up, throw it in there, let it boil a little bit, and the whole house has such a clean, I don't know if it's clean, but it's just a scent that you can live
Yeah.
with rather than
Then I can't say musty smell because it's not even a musty smell. It's
it's that closed up
stale
smell.
stale air. We'll just go with stale air. I mean, it's just
Yeah. But I used to do that. And when I make mulled wine, nothing smells better than mulled wine. Um, my thing, I like to use it in a crock pot. I start my crock pot and then
Mhm.
put the wine and all the cloves and the cinnamon and the orange in it. And then the whole house just has a smell to it that it's like, okay, I can live with this. And then you can drink it, so it makes it even
Wow.
better. We won't discuss how drunk you can get off mulled wine because you're actually cooking it pretty well. The magical uses was it was you can buy cinnamon incense. We all know that because I'm sure every witch has cinnamon in her incense. It raises your spiritual vibrations, and we were just talking about that. It raises the way you feel, makes you happy or feelings of home, like when you're little and your mom would bake cookies or apple pies. It kind of gives you that home feeling. Um, it also aids in healing, which we all heard, and believe it or not, it draws money. So that makes me happy. But the reason I picked it for this month is because of its psychic powers and protective vibrations. Um, this is the time of year when the veil is growing thinner every second. So we all know that there are things on the other side of the veil we don't want to invite into our homes. Protection is a big thing this time of year. People don't think about that. All they're thinking about is the ancestors and drawing that in. But you also have to remember you need to protect your home. Using cinnamon I can't think of a better way to protect your home than that wonderful smell of cinnamon going through your house. Um, it's also used in sachets. We all know that. I mean, I can't remember any time when cinnamon wasn't used just for its smell.
Right.
Whether you use it in stick, powder, I mean, whatever you use it for. Um, Hot apple cider with a stick of cinnamon in it is just the bomb.
Mhm.
And if you make a bunch of it and everybody's drinking it, the whole house just gets that cinnamony smell. The potpourri this time of year is doused in cinnamon. Essential oils. Again, I caution everybody: do not put essential oils on your skin unless you dilute them, or unless you know what you're doing, because it will cause
It'll burn you.
burns. Yeah, it'll cause burns. People don't understand that. But even cinnamon this time of year and essential oil, you can drop little drops here and there. Um, One of the neat things to do is cinnamon and orange peel in your garbage disposal.
Yes. That just
It
it's
gets rid of all the
refreshing.
yucky.
Yeah, it helps refresh it.
I love an orange peel, a stick of cinnamon, and two ice cubes, and turn it on. And it just makes the whole kitchen smell better. Um, Especially, like I said, this time of year when your house is closed up, you do have that stale odor. Now, in your vent intake in your house that pulls into your heat, or down here in Florida, we still have air conditioning. It was 92 today, just to let you know. Um, if you can get little sticky pads that you can put on your vents that'll when they draw it draws the air in. When it blows it out, it scents the air a little bit, not enough to overpower you, but just enough to you have that little scent somewhere. That's really a great way to go. I will caution you: do not pour cinnamon powder on your vents because it will clog it. Thing to know. If you're cleaning your rugs and you're vacuuming and you want a cinnamony smell, you can pour a little bit on a hard floor, pick it up with your vacuum cleaner, and then while you're vacuuming the whole house, that cinnamon will go through the whole house. But don't put it on your rugs because it can stain your rugs, because it's the brown will stain a white rug.
Are you speaking from experience?
Yeah. Most of the time I do because I've done that stupid stuff. So yeah, that's me. I found out on my light brown rug when I poured cinnamon on it,
It
it
became a dark brown rug.
it became a dark brown rug in that spot. So I learned to put it on my kitchen tile floor and suck it up in my vacuum cleaner. And then your vacuum, if you ever notice your vacuum stinking when you're vacuuming, it's it because it's picked up all that stuff and it's sat in the canister. So if you
Right.
use baking soda, or I like cinnamon, I like something scented, it will take away that, and it leaves a nice little cinnamony smell through the room. Potpourri this time of year is great. You can put cinnamon and cloves anywhere, and it really works. And again, the essential oils are good, but again, don't put them on your skin, and be careful what you put them on, because remember, they're very, very corrosive. The oils will seep into grout in your tiles if your grout's not sealed 100%. And when it seeps in brown and stays brown. Yes, that's experience talking. Did that too. Thought my late husband was going to shoot me because I had to regrout, and it doesn't always bleach out. Just a little hint there from the kitchen witch. But there's nothing that smells better than that. Those are our teas, and cinnamon has a lot of beneficial things to it. So if you make a tea, cinnamon is one of those things that you can actually use in an iced tea. As you all know, hot
Yes.
teas are good, but I'm an iced tea
That's what's in
person.
here.
Iced tea. You make it hot, put your cinnamon in it, put your honey or whatever you use to sweeten it, stir it up, put it in the fridge, and you have that refreshing cinnamon taste that you're not going to get from a hot tea, because it's nice and cold. And here in the South, like I said, today it was 92 degrees outside.
72, 72. It got up to 72 today.
72. Yeah. I was in South Carolina last weekend, and yeah, it was nice. It was like 70 degrees. At night, it dropped down, and I was like, I actually had to use like a little sweatshirt. My daughter in law's birthday, we were in South Carolina, right outside Myrtle Beach, and she had a big old fire going in the fire pit. So, of course, I'm in heaven at that point. And it was like, oh, it's a little chilly. So, it was getting
That's,
chilly up
well,
there.
from 90 degrees to a little chilly, it might not be necessarily a bad change. I mean, give you a little of this northern breeze without going all the way north.
This is the only time of year I get homesick for West Virginia, the changing of the leaves.
Yes.
Um, where
It,
I'm from, way back in the mountains look like a bowl of tricks cereal with all the different colors. And
the reds, the yellows, the oranges,
it's
and this
just,
is still green, and then you have the pines in there, which still have
oh,
green,
just
green.
pop.
Yes.
It is, you can take a girl from the mountain, but you can't take the mountain from the girl. And I'm going to tell you that right now. I do truly miss the falls in the north, because the colors, the crisp air, and nothing beats a fire pit out in the backyard this time of year. Because we have to wait to almost February to do that here.
I would say nothing beats a fire in general. I mean, it's not it's okay during the summer. I mean, because just for ambiance, but for fall it gives you have that fire and then you get to cuddle if you have
Oh,
special someone
and
just cuddle
hey,
up.
you can
Yes,
throw those cinnamon sticks in that fire, and
yes.
you'll get that scent. I don't know. I just have a thing. I really, really love the fall. That is my favorite time of year. Um, and like I said, the only time I ever get homesick is this time of year. And this is when my thoughts go north. And for the last, I've been here since 2015. So I'm starting to feel it. I came down in May.
Hmm.
So my first fall here, I was devastated. Palm trees do not
Oh,
change colors.
no.
No, and I was so homesick that year that I cried to my cousins, and they all sent me pictures of their backyards, and they're all in the mountains. So I've got all these beautiful
Yes.
colors, and then I cry even more because it's like I'm not there. But this is the time of year too, and most people don't think about that. You do a fall spring cleaning.
Yeah.
Summer's gone. You're getting ready for, especially now, we're getting ready for Yule and Christmas. and you're going through some of the, especially if you got kids, you're going through some of the toys they haven't used.
Well, the toys, but then you also, for us older people, our wardrobe. Now we got to pull the fall stuff out, put the the shorts and the summer
See what
can't
still
think.
fits.
Yeah, unless for us Northerners anyway.
Yeah, we go from short shorts to shorts. Florida, I'm glad I'm not real south. I'm
Yeah,
kind of midway, but we go.
you still have a chance to get snow.
Jacksonville has snow. We've never had snow in St. Pete. Yeah. So I don't miss the snow. I'll just let you know. Um, I considered taking vacations up north this time of year, but my problem is if I go up to visit my family, um, it snows in October in West Virginia.
It a couple Halloweens. It's been freezing here. It's literally snow, snow or iced, or and it's like, not yet, not yet.
And you don't know what size. This is a true. This is a real true thing. You don't know what size costume to buy your kids because you don't know if it's going to be hot where they
Right.
can wear the costume over their t-shirts and shorts, or if it's going to be freezing cold and you got to put 4 layers on them.
Yes. Seriously, they're wearing, after you put their parka on. Yes, they're wearing a costume. Look, they're wearing a mask.
Yeah, that's about it. You see, because I remember when mine were little, it was like, okay, is it going to be hotter? Because you buy the costume a little early so you can get it on the cheap side. And then it's like, do I buy it 3 sizes too big or a size to fit? Because either it goes over their, 4 layers
Yes.
or it goes over a t-shirt. And no matter when we bought or what we bought, it was always wrong.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah.
first Halloween that I took my youngest son, now my 18-year-old, my youngest son, my 18-year-old. Anyway.
No, he's not. He
Yeah, yeah.
is not. No,
Yes,
there's no way.
he's 18. Just turned 18 in July. Anyhow,
Breaks my heart that he's that old already.
yes, it snowed. It really snowed on Halloween. I'm like, his first Halloween, and it snows. We got him this cute outfit, cute costume, and it snowed.
Yes,
So,
no.
no real good pictures, or because he's in there. Oh, I'm cold.
I was all bundled up to his nose.
Yes,
I was in Baltimore for years, and there's a saying in Baltimore: if you don't like the weather, wait a few minutes.
yes.
Yes,
But
and
same saying here.
we've shoveled the snow the end of October, and then we've had Octobers where the costumes were too hot to wear.
Yes,
They put the mask on and they're sweating and then the next year it's like, okay, come here, you got another coat to put on, let's put on the second coat. But it this time of year though, with that cool, I did a lot of camping with Boy Scouts, and my favorite camping times were October and November because it's cold but it's not freezing yet. And usually that you after we get all the scouts to bed, the leaders sit around the campfire drinking coffee going, oh thank god they're asleep. And that's our favorite time because that's our wind down time.
yeah,
And there is nothing that can replace the smell of a campfire.
no,
And as silly as it sounds, when I moved here, I didn't get I finally rented a house and I have a backyard and I have a fire. Of course, one of the first things I bought was a fire pit.
oh,
And we used it. We moved in February. So, February and March, we could actually use it. And it was like that smell. It was in my clothes. And it's like, I don't want to wash my clothes. I want to hold on to them because I could smell the campfire in them. And it's that smell that it just brings all those memories back. And this is a wonderful time of year. It really is. There's so many things going on. I know October for us pagans is, oh my God, nonstop.
hmm
Didn't Tennessee just have their pagan pride
yes.
last weekend?
Last weekend they had Pagan Pride last weekend.
So I know most
Yeah,
places have it in
it was
September, but I was very excited. In fact, my cohort from Virtual Circle was doing one of the Tennessee Pagan Prides, and it was like, wow, is it already that time of year? And she did an awesome job. I'm just going to say, Mary, you did a fantastic job setting it up. Yes, I'll give her kudos. And weren't we online?
Yes,
With,
they that's yeah, that's how I was able to watch was through online, and like I said, they had some amazing speakers, and you can still see it on YouTube. They have
oh,
replays.
are they showing it on any of our Corellian sites?
I think it's on Magic TV.
Magic TV. There you go. It's just, I know most of them do it in September, but September is so full and you're prepping for October. So Mary had her hands full doing this and she did an absolutely wonderful job. They did have some great stuff on there. I caught parts of it. And the great thing, I've always said, I'm doing these things for real all the time. When you're going to those things, I used to travel and do them, but it never failed when I wanted to take a class or see what was happening. I was teaching.
Yes.
And by the virtue of us videoing it, it doesn't matter now because you can go back and catch it.
Okay. Silver Ravenwolf. I've always wanted to meet her. Take a class with her. And any event that we've been at, I've either had to run tech or something for somebody else at the same time that she was giving the lecture. Um, I actually got to attend one of her classes through Witch Fest last year. Finally, I'm like, I'm finally in a class.
I'm right there with you, Jason, because it's never fails. You look at who's showing up, who's doing classes, who's speaking, and it's like, shh, I'm teaching.
Yes.
Or I really wanted to, oh, I'm teaching. Or I'm running this stand. Or I'm,
Yes. Or I'm at this event, but I'm helping run the booth. You know, and you're just and you schedule your relief to come in, and they never fail to show up at that time.
or they're late.
Yep. And so you're like, I'm not going because I personally either I'm early, or if I'm early, if I'm right on time, I'm late. So
And then you get someone who grabs you as you're walking towards the class. Well, you're running actually to
yeah.
make it to the class. And then someone says, I need to talk to you. And there goes your class.
hmm Yes.
So I just absolutely adore the fact that we're doing a lot of this online as well as in person. Because if you can make it to the in person and you miss something, you can always jump back online and catch whatever you missed.
Yeah. You can do the replay. It might take 20. You might have to wait 24 hours, but then it's right back up, and you're
It's absolutely. I've been doing pagan prides in Baltimore. I did them for years and years and years, and like I said, it never failed. You were either at the booth or you were teaching a class or you were doing something else and you missed all these wonderful, wonderful speakers and classes. And as someone who has been a presenter, you work really hard on your classes.
yeah.
So, and it's so upsetting. Like, there have been so many speakers I've wanted to see. I remember Oberon came, and I'm trying to think if it was Baltimore or DC he was at. And I was just, I am going, I don't care. And I got stuck.
hmm
And I
And it
was
never fails.
almost in
It never
tears.
fails. It
It,
never
it
fails.
doesn't. And you have to understand, a lot of us presenters are still excited over other presenters because they're
Yes.
people that we followed or that we know or whatever. And it's like, I can't be there.
Um, my first time going to Starwood and seeing all these amazing authors presenting, their latest works. It was just I was starstruck. I really was starstruck. I was giddy as a kid. Just I've read these people for years, and getting to meet them and things like that when I was bouncing from booth to booth. Then it's really, it was really nice but then getting pulled away and oh I got to do this and can't go to their class, can't do this or
I mean,
other things that happen.
you chase behind them, and can I talk to you for a half a second?
Yes.
You know,
Can I get a picture? Can
SJ
I get a picture?
Tucker. SJ Tucker is my favorite person. I absolutely adore her, and every year wherever she was at, I could never make it to her concerts or her classes or anything. And I got to the point where I was like, I'm never going to meet her. I did get to meet her. I was dragged to Phoenix Fire
Hmm.
here in Florida by a friend of mine who knew my attachment to her and was like, well, come on with me. We're going to go here to this pagan thing. I'm like, oh, okay. So I went, and she purposely didn't tell me she was going to be there. Uh, I will get you for that, Josette. I walk in, we sit down, and there is S.J. Tucker. I was, okay, I am totally a groupie. I was like all over her. I was like, oh my gosh, she's here. And I'm holding on to Josette, and I'm so excited. She's like, well, you can go over and talk to her. No, I can't. No, I can't. No, I can't. She says, you can go talk to her. But it's one of those things, like you said, you're starstruck, and it's like you followed this person forever.
Yes.
And I never got to meet her because I was always working a booth, working a class, taking tickets, I don't know, cleaning toilets, whatever, you know.
Whatever you needed to take care of. If you're running the event, you're the first one there and the last one to leave, and whatever happens in between, it's your responsibility.
And it's amazing now. I am so indebted to CEM Broadcasting for actually taping these things, videoing them, and having them for us later on to look at. Because even 4 or 5 years down the road, you saw a speaker. They said something. What was it they said? They said something, and it escapes you. You can literally go back and look at it and
Yeah.
take the class again. Now, I'm going to tell you, with anybody who teaches a class, and God knows I've got enough years of teaching, something will click, but it might not click at that time. It might be 2, 3, 4 years down the road. I've had people come up to me and say, I took your class 5 years ago.
Okay.
And you said, and I'm like, I have no freaking clue what I said. And they bring it up to you, and literally, I'm not being terrible. You don't remember
No.
because you've taught how many years in between that.
Yes.
So, by the fact that we're videoing this and holding on to this, those that are no longer with us that are in this Summerland, we can actually go back and look at their teachings. And okay, we all know we're on a path. They may not have had anything to say for you then. They may have something to say for you now,
Yeah.
where you're at. So I encourage everybody, if you get on CEM Broadcasting, Magic TV, Pagans Tonight Radio, we have all of that. You can go back and listen again, because I'll tell you what, I was on Pagans Tonight with Liz and Terry Powell. And I went back to that, and I was like, oh my God, I was actually talking to him. It's kind of funny because you you've seen them, you've heard them, and now you talk to them, go back and listen to it again. There are messages in every one of our lessons, but you might not be ready to hear that lesson yet. And I absolutely love the fact that we have these things and we keep them, and you can go back and look at them, because we're losing people every day in our tradition. It's
Not just our tradition. I mean, our
no. Oh,
pagan elders in general. I mean, none of us are
well,
getting any younger. I mean that.
no. And Selena Fox was actually saying just a couple weeks ago that uh, we're losing a lot. We need to start, those of us that are still here need to start picking up the pace a little bit. She was kind of calling us out.
Yes,
Um,
she has a habit of doing that.
she does, and she knows how to do it too. She does it with
And she
such
says it so
fun.
sweetly. she's hitting you up the back of the head with a 2x4, but she's doing it so sweetly.
Yeah, she's saying please first and then smacking you. But she is absolutely right. We are losing. I mean, the Witches Council of 1974, if you look to see who's still around, it's a very small field right now.
Let's just say, the only one, granted, I don't know the list, but I mean, the only one I know is Oberon. I mean, and Isaac, and Isaac is in the Summerland.
Right. Phaedra was there. Selena was there. But it's still when you start looking at it, and it's amazing that we have such rich background and we don't have
History.
it.
History. We have, it's starting to, they've always said that paganism is an oral tradition. Well, now we have it as a video tradition and record it. We can now record and save it. I mean, like you said, going back to Pagans Tonight Radio, and it's audio, it's visual. We have now ways of storing it for future.
And it's really important, especially with especially now when witchcraft has come out of the closet and booming. Let's face it. I mean, I am seeing references all over the place, and it's blowing my mind that when I started, you couldn't even say the word witch, and now,
I mean, okay, my not saying you're that age, but my if you would ask my grandmother, she was a Quaker. If you would ask her that, just she would say she was a Quaker. However, every full moon she lit a candle. She would take me on herb walks, pointing out this is this is a healing herb. This is she had recipe cards of herbal remedies.
yeah, my grandmother get a headache, she'd reach down and pick up a piece of mint off the ground. She'd rub it on your forehead. Yeah, but she wasn't a witch.
No,
No,
no, no,
no,
no, no.
no.
But like I said, every full moon she would light a candle.
And those are the things that now we're actually videoing. And for
Yes.
our younger audience, or anybody, everybody is a young witch. Everybody is a baby witch. I don't care how long you've been practicing, you're a baby witch.
Okay. When I'm teaching, let's say I'm teaching first degree students. Every time I go through that material, I learn something new, and I've taught it for too many years. I mean, for a few
I
years.
know how long you've been teaching. I'm not going to say, but yeah, it's been quite a few years. But you're right. And what you learn from your students is phenomenal.
And then not just like I said, refreshing the material. I learn something new from them, but I also learn from my students. They teach me as much as I teach them. Always. I mean,
Always.
you
Because
get
they
their
look at it
perspective on how they see things, and it's oh, I never thought of it that way or saw it that way, or okay, that's amazing, and
and it really is, especially like as you get older, when the next generation comes in and they're saying, especially we have the techno witches now because everybody's online and stuff, but they're like, wow, and they'll say something, it's like, and you're going, really? Wait a minute, let me write that down for a minute. I got to remember that. But it's true. And now more than ever, we need the videos, we need the audios from pagan radio. I mean, that was the shit for how long?
yes.
Pagan tonight, pagan blog talk. I mean, we had a lot of that, and all of that knowledge
Hmm.
we've captured.
Yes.
I look at our own tradition and I see all the poor, all those that have gone to the Summerland, and I'm like, I was fortunate to meet most of them. I mean, back in the day when we would meet at the Gray Elephant, I mean, we got to meet them and talk to them and
I
hear
was
their words of wisdom.
I was looking up Magic TV was looking up one of the illustrations. There was a gathering of the Lustral Water with Bitterwind and Lady Crystal, and it was uh, Lady Bitterwind has been in summer crossed over a couple years now in May. but seeing her and her spunk, her she was very lively individual.
Yeah, you could say that nicely. um,
You
I
you
I
never you
remember
never
my
knew what was gonna you
illustration of
never knew
it.
what was gonna come out of her mouth ever. And if she was in ritual, hey, here's the ritual script. There it goes. And she would just say from the heart, and it was always so wonderful and amazing. She was
It
very into improv ritual.
She was, and she just she said it like it was. I will give her that. She never sugarcoated. She,
You always know exactly where you stood with her.
yeah, and she was when she taught you without sugarcoating. This is how it is. This is how
Yes.
it's gonna be,
Hmm.
and it was very clear and concise. I mean, I absolutely loved her. And the fact that I actually got to meet with her at Lustration when I was up there years and years ago, um, just listening to them talk. You don't even have to be in on the conversation. You just sit there, and of course you're awestruck, so your jaw's hanging open. You got to remember to close your mouth. But you're just listening to all of this knowledge. It was
And
uh,
not even necessarily teaching, just conversation of their
conversation.
experience. And um, I made a comment a while back on my Facebook post about listening to your aunts and uncles. Listen to their experience, because if that's their history, that's their experience, and if you can learn something from it, that's amazing. I mean, they've went through it. If you learn something from it where you don't have to go through the some of the bumps and bruises that they did, that's great. I mean, us old folks. Oh, anyway.
Yes. Well, when you talk about that, seriously, back in the day before TV, I grew up in a town where we had two stations. Um, there wasn't much to do. So, as a child, you were given a chore, and literally farming. We were popping peas, or we were, whatever we were doing, snapping the string beans or whatever. All of the women folk would be sitting there talking. It was basically a red tent session.
Oh yeah. Well,
I did not know what the term red tent meant, but I knew what the heck was going on because they would discuss everything. And as kids, you're sitting there and you're working your hands and you're just listening in on all this stuff. And the stuff I walked away from with was amazing. As
see,
I got older, it really played in to my health, my actual genetic makeup.
I mean, I grew up in the kitchen with the women because the women were in the kitchen. I was growing up with my great aunts and my great uncles. They were in the men, the older men, were in the living room drinking beer, watching football. Let's say it's Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving,
Yep.
Thanksgiving. They were in that room. I'm sorry, I'm not a big football fan. I'll admit it. I'm not a big football fan. Never have been. Really does not interest me whatsoever. But oh, come in the kitchen. We need help. Doing the green beans or mashing the potatoes, and do not use a blender. The mashing of the potatoes, literally the hand mashing of the potatoes. To this day, that's how I make mashed potatoes. I don't use
To
a
this
blender.
day, that's how I make them. But you
But
learn your family history that way. You learned who Aunt so
I
and so was.
yes, you learn about everything. Oh, next year, when we do the green beans, we need to put more eggshells out in the to things like that.
That
I'm
you could never read in
yes,
a book.
no, it's like, why do oh, that helps with the or we need to throw banana peels. That's another one that they would throw out there, and
Coffee grounds and with the roses.
coffee grounds. Yep.
And your history, people always say, well, history is the past. History is
No.
what has the foundation for what
Yes.
we build on. Our history is oral. It's we only know what was written down by different authors who happen to mention, witchcraft
And
or
what is written down is usually very much embellished.
Oh, and it makes us look like we were flying on the brooms. Goodness knows I want that broom because you know how much gas I would save. We're paying 3.19 a gallon down here, so we're dying.
It's 3.39 here, so
Ooh, ow. I'm complaining at 3.19. History is very much a big part of who anyone is, who any country is. Um, and history, let's preface this, history is written by the victors.
yes,
And you have to read both sides of the story if you can get it, because you're going to understand what the victorious part wrote. That's what's in the books. But if you go back and talk to the people who lived it, they're going to tell you exactly what happened.
yes.
Um,
So you get to hear both point of views. Okay, there was this. Oh, we won this battle, even though you lost. They lost 3 people and you lost 1,000. If you claim victory in that written text, you won the battle.
who won the battle. Now, I had
Yeah.
that thrown in my face because my mother grew up in Europe during World War II, and I'm in America reading, my history book, and I'm trying to take a test, and I'm like, quiz me on my test, and she's like, well, that's wrong. That's not the right answer. It's the answer in the book. She's like, but that's not what I need the answer in the book. And as I was growing up, it always occurred that kept playing in my head. Why was the book wrong? That's
Yes.
what I was being taught. The Civil War, West Virginia was one of those states that went one way or the other, but they were mostly a free state. And I listened to my relatives. No, that's not what happened here. So when we look at our history, and
Right.
I'm talking about our Wiccan or our witchcraft history, it's it's a history that adds to itself, but it's also a history that's been very, very written badly.
Yeah.
All you read about is the bad things we did,
Yes.
you know. And you only hear about the horrible parts of history, but history is what makes our holidays. We wouldn't be celebrating it if we didn't know about it.
Our upcoming holiday, Samhain. That's a big one for us. I
It's
mean,
and it's interesting that the Catholic Church jumped on that bandwagon.
well, when you have most of your populace celebrating the holiday, you either shut up or join. Well, okay, we'll just call it this. We'll call it All Saints Day, All Souls Day. Well, that I'm sorry, All Souls Day is November 1st. All Saints Day is October 31st. Or no,
No, they're both
sorry.
November 1st.
Yeah, they're both November. Yes, sorry.
It
Yes.
used to be called All Souls Day. Then after
Right.
Vatican II, they changed it to All Saints Day because it sounded better.
Yeah.
I lost that translation somewhere.
Yeah. Well, or same day, different holiday. Or I mean, different name. Day of the Dead.
Dia de los Muertes.
Yes.
Now, I will honestly say, um, I have a very young nephew um, who came over a couple weeks ago and hung out, and surprisingly, he lived. I say that with all love. And he wanted to watch Coco
Hmm.
on Netflix. It's is it Pixar or Disney? One or the
I do
other.
not know. One or the other. Yes.
One or the other.
I
I,
think it's
I'm
Pixar. I think it's
Yeah, I'm
Pixar.
thinking it's Pixar for some reason, and we're sitting there watching it, and I'm like, Dia de los Muertes. And we're watching it, and I know the history behind that, and I'm watching it. It was one of the most fabulous films. He's 9. He watched it, and he goes, I think we need to do that. We need to go to the graveyard, and we need to celebrate our ancestors.
Yeah.
And this kid is not pagan by any stretch. And I
Right.
was just like, wow, how profound that Pixar had. a show, a movie that
Yes.
explained it so that my 9-year old nephew could watch. I watched it. I was fascinated. I was like, damn, they're following all the traditions. It was fascinating and it was absolutely adorable because this whole season, I mean, if you take the 31st and the 1st, they're
Yes.
both the same day. Um,
Yeah.
it's all about a celebration of our ancestors. And he was like, well, can we do that? Now, unfortunately, his ancestors are in Maryland and he's in Florida. But I was like, the next time we go up there, we'll go to the grave sites and we'll have a picnic with them. He goes, I really want to do that.
That's amazing.
That was so
And okay.
heart touching. I was like, oh my gosh. But think about it now. Pixar put this movie together. I don't know who did it. I really don't know. But whoever put it together really needs an Academy Award as far as I'm concerned. You brought together uh, an old tradition. How old is honoring our ancestors from caveman times, right?
Yeah, I mean, it can go back that far. Yes, I mean, you see them even honoring the dead. I mean, you see them Neanderthals carefully burying and ritualistically burying the dead, and then you see candles and food in it.
So, something that happened, I don't know, 20, 30,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And a lot of cultures do not do that. Let me put that out there. Our culture, that's a big thing for us. Samhain is our big ancestor. And it's more, I would say, Mexican rather than South American.
Yes.
But it's an honoring of the ancestors. And it touched this child who really has no background. And he
Right.
was just like, I want to remember his grandmother passed away when he was young, and he remembers her. And he
Yeah.
was like, I want to go have a picnic on her grave. So I called my sister and said, guess what? Gloating,
Yeah.
gloating. We're going to Baltimore to the graveyard. Yes. No. But it's interesting how now that movie, I would guarantee you 15, 20 years ago would not have been made.
No, it would not have been made.
But the fact that they're honoring their ancestors and they had to, have you seen the movie?
Yes, I have a couple times.
When they're going for the petals on the
Hmm.
flowers, and it's like if you don't remember them, they die. And it was just like, I got all caught up in it. I'm sorry, I did. But it was amazing to me that that is what we're talking about when we talk about the honoring of our ancestors.
Yes.
It was such a poignant movie. It was a touching movie because it was told from the ancestor side.
Yes.
That was the interesting part. They were all, would you say, ghosts or spirits?
Well, you have the mix. It's because the yeah, we'll just say from the ancestor side, from the spirit side. I
From
mean,
this, yeah, because they
because
had to go.
you
And
also have to. I mean, right, but but two of the main individuals were god and goddess symbols too. I mean, if you want to look,
that's where I was going with that. It
yeah,
was God and Goddess symbols.
yes, I
I
mean,
don't
'cause
know who wrote
here,
that.
yeah, I because you have the two protagonists. I mean, them telling the story from the book, from the book, but then you learn later, oh, it's those two people, and they've reconnected in
It was
through a
such
journey. It's you see a cycle, which life is. It's a cycle.
great. And to me, because it was depicted as people, they were depicted
Yes.
as people. I know the Circle of Life. My God, I can sing it to this day. But because that was animal characters,
Right.
when you see it with people, it actually touches you a different way.
Right.
And I just thought that you had God and goddess ancestors. And remember at the end, they had all the
All the
ancestors, you
yes.
know. You're
It
part
makes
of
me
this family.
yeah.
I
Oh,
thought that
that's hey, that's great Uncle Mordecai or whatever, you know.
it was, I was watching it and it was summertime when he was here watching it. It was, a couple months ago. And I was like, damn, that's a Samhain movie.
Yes, it's very much a Samhain movie. Yes,
That explains a lot. I mean,
An, another one. It's an older kind of cartoon. It's the Halloween Tree. It's actually a book by Ray Bradbury, but one of the main characters, Monshroud, voiced by our Leonard Nimoy. He voiced the character.
ooh,
It's really good. The book goes through different traditions and it shows you why we celebrate Halloween.
what was it called again?
It's called Halloween Tree. It's a by Ray Bradbury.
Halloween tree.
It has Leonard Nimoy as the main character.
To me, if you can, I mean, let's face it, there are a lot of people out there. We talk about this is the time of our ancestors. It's in all religions. Let's face it, the Catholic Church took it over and called it All Souls Day. Now it's All Saints Day, and they remember the saints. But I'm going to be honest with you. You can sit there and give me the litany of the saints, and it doesn't connect because I don't know the saints.
Right.
You know, I don't know St. Francis of Assisi. I
But
know what he's for. He's the animal saint, blah, blah, blah.
but you
Saint,
do know your great aunt Mabel if you're happen to
exactly. And to me, going to Mass, because my late husband was Catholic, I went to Mass and I was raised Catholic, so I understand it. We would go to church and they go through the litany of saints, and it's like, I don't know these people. They never once touch on the fact that your ancestors meant something. It's only the saints list. And they go through all the saints. Okay, I don't know St. Anthony, but I know if I lose something, I'm supposed to go running behind and, pray for St. Anthony to find it. Um, that's really not empowerment. That's just praying and getting it out there. Empowerment is saying, okay, I'm going to write a spell and I'm going to find that thing. But when you see the characters as people and you see them gathering their family and they start talking about great uncle, great 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 uncle, great great. I mean, the one character was what, the four great grandfather of this
yes.
person, great 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 grandfather. He fought, I don't know, 200 years ago or something. It connects, and
Yes.
even as an adult watching that, because that was my first time watching it. I don't normally watch. I mean, I love Pixar movies. Don't get me wrong. And one of the reasons I had grandchildren was so I could take them to see Disney movies every 7 years when they released them. Um, it was enjoyable because it was like, this is my tradition. This is it in color, and there's people, and it's not animals, it's real people, and they're talking about, and I'm sitting here going, that's history.
Hmm.
This is my personal history. And it was so cute to see, they, oh, we've never met, but I'm your whatever. And, he explained, he was like, I don't know, great great uncle so and so or something. And, the little kid's going, wow, you're, and it was so incredible to see that movie and I that should be a requirement in the Corellian tradition. I'm sorry. I really think so because you laugh, but I mean, how many adults can relate to that?
Yes.
How many adults don't understand? our tradition of honoring the ancestors, because sometimes when we call ancestors, we're thinking ancestors of the tradition or somebody that was like burned at the stake in the 1600s. My ancestors are my grandmother,
Yep.
my great grandmother, the ones who
My
came.
the you know the I as my personal spirit guides, I have one that is a Corellian. I have Mabel. She is one of my guides, but my familiar aunt, my personal family. I mean, I speak with my great aunt, and when I'm in the kitchen, I hear her, talking in my ear. "Oh, you've put too much salt in that.
My grandmother comes back
A
to
little
me.
bit more flour. You need a little bit more flour, or that's not thick enough.
And I
Or
wonder
you need to
how
go get that
many.
oregano.
Yeah, never go easy on the oregano or the rosemary.
Yeah.
It's but if you, as an adult, and I'm talking, I'm watching this movie and I'm going like, this is our tradition. This is who we are. So sometimes we get caught up in that ritual part, and I don't think we look at the human part. You
Right.
know what I mean? I mean, we're caught up in the ritual, and many times when you call ancestor, you're thinking, oh, the ancestors of the Correllian tradition who you may not even freaking know. I mean, be honest, I didn't know any of the saints they were calling, at the Catholic Church. Um, I know some of the ancestors in our tradition because I met them before they became ancestors, but it's like, what about my personal ancestors?
And they're just as valid. They're just as valid, and they guide you just as well. I mean,
They're
like I said,
probably more valid in many cases. If you can't relate to, you're fortunate you can relate to Mabel, but not everybody's going to be able to relate to that.
right.
But can you relate to your grandmother that passed? Oh, hell yeah. That was grandma whatever, mine's grandma Maxwell. I can relate to that. I grew up with her.
The
I
I was fortunate. When I was born, I had five generations. I had my great great grandmother, and on the way. So I had several grandmothers. I had my great grandmother was Mommy Davis, Granny Ping, which was my grandmother's mother, uh, my mother's grandmother, which was Nanny. She was my nanny. She was just what I called her. Um, Mima, which was my grandmother Mycroft. Then there was grandmother Mycroft, which was my grandfather's mother. Just I mean, I had, and then it was just amazing. I mean, unfortunately, they've all crossed over by now, but it was amazing because all that history. I mean, I literally had that generational connection. I mean, to see all of them alive and breathing and stubborn. My mommy Davis, she had cancer. She had breast cancer. She went through chemotherapy and all that fun stuff. I shouldn't say fun stuff, all that stuff. I mean, but she insisted that she would not lose her hair. She did not lose her hair. Well, when she was in the hospital, her children got together and put in indoor plumbing. By indoor plumbing, I mean bringing the pump into the house.
Yeah, I remember those days. I hated
The,
that
the,
damn
the,
pump.
yeah, the pump inside the house so she wouldn't have to walk to go to the well to get water.
Yes.
She blew up and threw a fit because that's not how it's done. You go out to go get water. You go out to the outhouse. I mean,
But
They did not actually put. They were going to put in a bathroom in her house, and after that little incident, that never happened. She
well,
was
back
93.
then they thought it wasn't healthy to have the
Yes,
bathroom in your house.
right, but it was still when she finally crossed over. She was 93.
Now, we this is our celebration, and the whole month, if you walk the path long enough, the whole month is the celebration of your ancestors. Everything reminds you of who you are and who your ancestors are. My roots go all the way back to Appalachia. So this is the time of year I remember my grandmother. My parents both passed. My father's been dead over 35 years. So my grandmother's been dead 10 years longer than that. She died in 1968.
Okay.
But I
Well,
lived with her.
it's been over an hour.
It has been. And we've had so much fun talking about history.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Oh, Jason, we could talk for about 6 hours on here. We have to be very careful.
Yes.
The main thing I really want to talk about with everybody is that when we talk about our ancestors, it's not necessarily the Corellian ancestors, it's your ancestors. They're who made you. And I give everybody a test. Go back and find out where your ancestors are from. You don't have to do a DNA. I want you to go talk to your older relatives. DNA just tells you what you're made of. Your
Well,
relatives tell you who you are.
I have a story about this. My One of my cousins decided she was going to do genealogy of her family. Well, she was trying to find the marriage certificate of her parents, and finally, broke down. Well, I can't find it anywhere. Where did you guys get married? Oh, honey, we never got married. Well, at that time, because the traveling justice of the peace, and sometimes you just live together. That's my wife, that's my husband, and you were now husband and wife.
And that's called common law
Okay,
after 7 years.
because the justice of peace, sometimes didn't come around, and by that time, 5 years, you've been. That's my wife. That's my husband. So they just never got the paper. I
Didn't
mean, never.
happen
It didn't happen. They didn't
legally.
need it. They didn't need it. I mean, they just didn't need it. So that is one of those ancestor stories, that.
We were lucky. We were fortunate. In West Virginia, they were doing a history of the church. And my ancestor was the first Baptist minister west of the Alleghenies. Now, you have to remember the Alleghenies stopped everybody from moving that way because they're pretty rugged.
Mhm.
There are very, very, very few Catholics in West Virginia because the priests weren't going out that way. They wanted to stay where the money was in the towns.
Mhm.
To this day, the area that I'm from has one service in town. It's 2 towns over. I have to go 2 towns over if I wanted to attend a Catholic service. They have one. They have one priest who does 4 churches
Mhm.
to this
Um,
day.
One of them over in Indiana, Rockville, and then Montezuma, and there's two Catholic churches. Well, it's one priest that services both of them.
Mhm. Because the priests didn't go west because there were no towns.
Yep.
So I always thought when they did our history, I'm like, oh my God, we're going to see every horse thief and, whatever. And it just so happened that the First Baptist minister, now we have a church. My grandmother's family are Summers, and there's a Summers church just outside of Morgantown, and that is my family's church. And those are my ancestors, and it's kind of cool because you can relate to that. So when I do any ancestor work, I'm relating to my actual ancestors. But when you start looking at your genealogy, when you start asking those questions, like my family now, we have a straight line back to almost the 1100s in Scotland on my father's side. And it's kind of cool when you start looking at these names because then it's like talk to an older relative because my my father's last generation, his little sister died on my birthday this year. I had planned to go back in July, and she died in April. She was the aunt that named me, so we were very close. She was only 16 years older than me, so she was just a child when I was born. And she was the one who knew everything. You
Hmm.
wanted to know somebody, you called Aunt Nancy. Aunt Nancy, who is so and so? And she knew oh, well, that's your second cousin on your father's side. And you're going like, slow down because I done lost you. But I don't want anybody to do genealogy. I want you to go back either to a graveyard, cemetery. Now, there's a difference between a graveyard and a cemetery. I want you to go back and find it. I did mine when we went back. When I went back in July, we did the Witch of Mannington and the Highland Cemetery in Mannington, West Virginia. Yes, we did. And we did a video, and you saw me with a couple of my cousins huffing and puffing through the damn grave to the cemetery because cemetery has a church, graveyard doesn't. That's the difference. So this was a church, and it actually has a little grave. But I want you to either talk to an old relative and start taking notes, write it down. There were about 100 questions I had left for my aunt, and she died. There is nobody who can answer.
Well, you have most people have one of these, a cell phone. Record it.
But I don't want you to go and do a DNA. I want you to go back and talk. You will hear stories. I actually met my father's first girlfriend at my cousin's funeral. My Aunt Nancy says, "Oh, you got to meet her." And she's grabbing on my arm. I'm like, and she was this little old thing. I'm like, "What? We got to go over here." Why? I was having fun talking to, all my cousins. And she's like, she grabs me by the arm. And this was 15 years ago. She drags me across the funeral home, and I'm pissed. And she's like, "Hi, Aurora." And this woman answered her back, and they're talking. She goes, "This is Bobby's daughter." Now, my dad's been dead at this point 20 years. And I'm like, I don't even know who this woman is. So of course, if you're with an older relative, be very respectful because they can still backhand you.
Oh yes.
The fear of the backhand has kept me very respectful. And we're talking, and then we walk away. And I'm like, who the hell was that? That's your father's first girlfriend. He was supposed to marry her when he came back from the service. He married my mother. And I
All
was
right.
like,
Oh,
so your assignment, because we're going to have history part two, is to
yeah.
go talk to an older relative or go to the grave or the cemetery where your relatives are buried and start looking at names. Because we're going to have some cool names next time. I'll be bringing out my family history, and you're going to hear some really awesome names. Jason, it's always a pleasure when I get to talk to you. When am I going to get to see you again? I'm putting him on the spot just because.
Oh, next week for part two.
Oh, you know what? I want to see you in person again. We have so much fun when we're together. They only allow us together for a certain period of time because we get in trouble. Not really, but
Anyway, thank you for
so
having me.
I can't wait for next week. I want you all to do the assignment. We'll see y'all next week. Remember our Facebook. Now, I'm supposed to remember all this. Facebook at Tea Time with Mother and Crone. Our email is Thyme, and that's Thyme. Melinda does this. I'm trying to remember. Thyme MC at gmail.com. Go on YouTube, see us at Tea Time at Mother and Crone. And we're always on. If you guys need to email us, we want to see pictures of your cups or your t-shirts that you've gotten from us. Our word today is ancestor. What else? Ancestor. Type in that word ancestor and you'll have a cup on your way to you. We're going to get some more merchandise in and be sending out some other cool stuff. Remember, if you have a gathering and you want us to talk about it, just like the Tennessee Pagan Pride, just make sure you get us the information soon enough. We will get it online and we will tell everybody about it. Think of us as a free advertising agency for you. And in the meantime, please walk your path. Got a question? Find a crone, find a sage. They'll answer it for you. And we'll see you all back here next week. Thank you so much for
Blessed
coming
be.
today. Blessed be.